Hey, what's going on, everybody? Today is Friday, August 28th. Thanks for joining me today. I'm going to be talking about EIDL loan application and what mistakes you should be avoiding when applying for the EIDL loan if you're still considering it. Okay, this program still has a lot of funding left and a lot of money available, so you're still on the fence about it. Really, watch my other videos, see if it's a good fit for you, and if you're ready, apply for it, but make sure you avoid these 6 mistakes. All right, so when the program first started, there were multiple accounts of agents telling me that if we submitted an application and we later realized that we made a mistake on the application, we should just submit another application with the same EIN with the correct information, and the second application would override the first one. But now I'm learning that that is not the case. You don't want to submit multiple applications anymore, okay? If you have a mistake that you want to correct on the application, what you want to do is call the SBA, ask for a Tier 2 agent, and tell them what you're trying to change, what mistake you're trying to change. Now, they can't change it on the actual application for you, but they can write a note for your file to let the loan officer know of the changes or of whatever they need to change, all right? So, first mistake, don't submit a second application. If you're feeling you've been waiting for a long time for the loan and you think maybe it didn't go through, don't submit another application. If you got an SBA loan number, an application number, then you are in the queue, you're in the system. Just don't submit another application because you might bog down the system. You might cause some confusion. You might cause your first one to be void. You just don't want to mess around with that right now. All right, the second mistake is to use an ineligible business type. So believe it or not, there are some businesses that are ineligible for this loan. Things like casinos, illegal activities, real estate developers, those kinds of things. For a full list of that, check out the link in the description below. I have a link to the disaster loan SOP, standard operating procedure document. And if you go to page 70, you'll see a list of ineligible businesses. Now, I mention this because some of you might have businesses that are kind of gray area or might fall under different categories or industries. And, even though you're legitimately in one or multiple industries, you might not want to list that on your application if it's an ineligible business, because that will automatically get you declined, okay? And if you get declined, you're gonna have to go through a reconsideration process, which, as I'm learning, is taking forever. So that's not something you want to do. The third thing you want to watch out for is to make sure your credit is not frozen, your personal credit, because the SBA will run a credit check on you before they approve your loan. That's one of the main factors right now on whether you get approved or denied right off the bat. Now, I know that credit is not supposed to be a major factor in this loan, but because they're processing so many applications, they're trying to streamline the process, right? So the credit is the only thing that they're using really to determine your eligibility. I mean, they have 2 factors going off here in terms of loan amount and eligibility. They're going off of your self-reported revenue and cost of goods sold that they have no proof that they're going to ask you for, and they're going to go off your credit. So if your credit comes back really bad or frozen or locked, then they're going to decline your loan. So when you apply, make sure any freezes are lifted, make sure there's no locks in place on your credit report for, I believe it's Experian that they use. The fourth thing to keep in mind is to make sure when you're applying, do it consistently with your social or your EIN. So if you are self-employed, you don't have an EIN, you don't have a business, let's say you're a Lyft or Uber driver, then you want to apply with your social, make sure you just use your full legal name that's associated with your social security number. And if you're applying as a business, make sure your business name matches what the IRS has down for your EIN. For example, my company would be Wynn and Associates CPA Inc. That's going to match my EIN if I were to apply for this loan. So just make sure they both match, because that could result in a decline for unverifiable identity if your EIN and your name doesn't match. So be consistent with that. The fifth thing to watch out for is to make sure your bank account and the name on your bank account is correct. So at the very end of the application, it might ask you for your checking account information, and it's going to ask you for name on account, routing number, and checking account number. Just make sure they're all correct. Make sure the name on account matches what's actually on your account. So you will have an opportunity to change this down the road when you get your email for creating an account and stuff with the SBA. You will have an opportunity to change it down the road, but it's just good practice to make sure you enter it correctly the first time. And when you get your email down the line and you create an account with the SBA, it's gonna know whether or not your name on the account that you entered matches your actual name on the account with your bank. What I've seen is that some people put down like their business checking account, right? But for some reason, it doesn't match their business name, even though on their actual bank account it has their business name. So what they did is they tried putting their own personal name, and then it matches, because maybe there's like 2 account holders, or there's a signer that's associated with the account. Once you get the email and you entered everything correctly, and it still says that your name on account doesn't match, just try your personal name, try any other known business names that you went by before. Just try all that to make sure it all matches. And the 6th thing you don't want to do is lie on your application. This might not be so important anymore, but misrepresenting the amount of employees that you have will be really bad. That was relevant when the EIDL was still issuing advances or grants based on the number of employees you have. I've heard stories of people just saying they have 10 employees and they get the full $10,000 grants, and bada bing, bada boom, that's it. But you don't want to do that. You don't want to misrepresent the number of employees you have. You don't want to misrepresent your income or cost of goods sold, because although there might not be checks in place to prove those figures now, if you get audited or reviewed down the road, lying on those things is a federal crime. It's a fraud crime, and you can actually go to jail for that. Not like not paying your taxes, where you get a bunch of notices and then you have an opportunity to pay or whatever. But if you get caught doing this, you can go to jail for it. And there have been multiple occasions you've seen on the news where people have been busted, lying on their application, misrepresenting their income and all that jazz. That's the last mistake I want to touch on, is just be honest and truthful on your application. The government is giving you this cheap money. Don't take advantage of it in that way. So now that I've gone through some major mistakes that you should be avoiding, I'm gonna just walk through the actual application process with you and what to expect. Just in case you're still curious and on the fence about applying. So the application itself is a pretty short application. It might take you 15 minutes. Okay, so once you complete that, you get an application number. Make sure you save that number, because that would be really helpful, if you ever have to call the SBA to reference your account. So once you get that, you wait for a little bit. Sometimes it takes a few days, sometimes it takes a few weeks, but you're gonna get an email from the SBA asking you to create an account or for their secure portal. So when you create an account, that's when you can log in and see, how much of a loan they're offering you, what the terms are, and all that. So once you do that, you want to review your term for your loan. There's going to be a maximum that they offer you, and the minimum you can borrow is $1,000, and you can actually borrow any amount in between those two numbers. There's literally a sliding scale that you can move around to borrow what you think you need, okay? And the interest rate is going to be 3.75%. You're not going to make any payments for a year, but keep in mind, interest will still accrue for that year that you're not making payments. Your payments are going to be relatively low. You have 30 years to pay this thing off, which I recommend paying off earlier than that if you can. Once you verify the term of the loan, you just have to verify your identity and verify your checking account number, and then you want to submit your application for further processing. And then once you do that, you got to wait another few days to a few weeks. They're going to say they approve or deny your request. So if they approve it, they're going to send you basically a DocuSign for you to sign your loan contract. And after you sign your loan contract, then within a few weeks, you're going to get funded to the checking account that you had submitted originally. Okay? So it's a fairly simple process. I'm thinking that they are pretty streamlined right now because they hired a bunch of people to assist them with all the applications. They've only used $180 billion as of this Monday, and this loan program has $360 billion, so there's still plenty of money left for people to apply. So is it gonna run out of money soon? I don't think it's gonna be soon. So if you're on the fence about it, watch my other videos, make sure it's a good fit, and apply if you think it's a good fit. All right, that's all I got for today. Thanks for joining me. If you're new here, I'd love it if you subscribe to my channel and join my community. And if you're already a part of my community, then thank you for coming back. Thanks for watching my videos. And as always, smash that like button. I'd really appreciate that. And have a good weekend. I'll see you guys next week. Take care and stay safe.